Hello and welcome to the Morning Skate Podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell, here to go through the Tuesday, March 12th NHL Daily Fantasy Slate. So, DJ, we have our last, I believe, our last premier GPP of the NHL regular season here. 300 entries, $444, 25K to first. So, Tuesday, one of the bigger days, I guess, of the month of March. How you doing on this fine Monday evening?
Yeah, I had a decent weekend. Betting went pretty well overall. I have just committed, and it's very funny because as I've probably mentioned here, and I know I've mentioned to you, I have, obviously people that are listening to this and on Twitter that follow some of my bets, but also people that have my phone number, such as family members, friends, etc. And everyone's now in on the bit that I cannot hit a bet on Friday or Saturday afternoon. And then I just smashed everything else. So Sunday, pretty huge day, getting right. Started drafting some Zamboni teams. They're a mess out there. Like it's just an absolute war zone to draft all the Colorado and nonsense. People jumping a million spots up ADP, and it's fun. So yeah, I had a pretty good weekend overall, and I'm gearing up for a trip to Cancun. So I will be out of office next week for the Thursday slate. So I'll just mention that now.
Yeah, that is my final day here. I'm leaving bright and early Thursday, going to Scottsdale for the Fantasy Hockey World Championship. So I'll figure out what we'll do. I might make a few calls to see what we can do to prep for Thursday's pod next week. But this week you're here with us.
Better people.
Just maybe potentially equally championed people. Well, we'll see though. We'll see. Don't have any explicit plans, and I haven't even mentioned this to anyone. So if you're listening to this and want to jump at the opportunity, reach out, and maybe we can do what we did earlier this year, where we had a couple guests on that killed it. Anyway, we do have 10 games on Tuesday. I mentioned the four top. Check your tickets. They've been doing satellites to this thing for a month now. 25K to first. What I kind of like about it is there's 15K to second, 10K to third. Very flat like drop off there. So honestly, it's not a huge tournament. Like it's 20K on Monday night, and they added $44 to the entry fee and added 5K to the top prize on Tuesday, with all the bonus or satellites out there. But I can't complain. I mean, it's the dead of March. I can't imagine there's too many diehards in the NHL lobby at this point, with the NBA still going as well. So anyway, do check out DJ's Tuesday night Zamboni stream. That'll be linked if you find the description of this podcast or on YouTube. It'll be over on DJ's YouTube. I will be focused on tilting my face off at the daily fantasy slate, but certainly we'll get into the Zamboni streets in these upcoming weeks, hopefully with some data. We've been bugging people internally at Underdog to just give us some damn data, and we'll see what we can do with that. But anyway, anything else before we get into Tuesday's 10 games?
Nope, that'll be on our the stream will be live on YouTube, and it will be uploaded to YouTube. My plan is to do a little bit of my degenerate gambling, just talking about Underdog, a little bit about drafting, NHL drafting, etc., and then get into some strategy stuff that worked last year and the year before. Try to pull some threads, and then draft maybe one or two teams, and then that'll be up there on YouTube. We're up to about 200 subscribers. Goal is to get to 1,000 so I can give away an autograph for Rasmus Ristolainen, Buffalo Sabres picture. Yeah, I'll bring us into the games if you're ready. What is this? Do you see this?
Yep. Go.
I thought it was just me.
Is
this? Oh, it's that. Okay. I kept seeing this black dot on my face, and I was like, I thought I was losing my mind. Okay. Do you see it?
Yeah.
It's definitely this. It's this shadow for sure. Okay. So bringing us into the slate now that I'm not distracted by that. I was like, there is a ghost on my face. Okay, so first up, yeah. I was really trying to fight through talking and get rid of that. Detroit is going to Buffalo. This is a game where maybe you'd imagine the line being different, but Detroit's lost 5 in a row. They're plus 100 on the road in Buffalo. It's 6.5. Boy, Patrick Kane narrative, whatever you want to say. But yeah, Detroit's been. I never thought the Islanders would catch them this fast. Like, holy crap. Game 2 is the Rangers on a back-to-back going to Carolina. Carolina minus 155, the 5.5 over-under should be Igor in net. The Columbus Blue Jackets will go to Montreal, 6.5 over-under, one of the higher on the slate, minus 115 on that, and it's a minus 120 for the Canadiens. Pittsburgh, talk about bad teams, is going to play Ottawa. Talk about bad teams. It's basically a pick 'em, a slight lean towards the Penguins, actually. It's minus 102 on the home Senators, 6.5 over-under. San Jose is going to Philly, the torchless Flyers. Next coach up, as Cam Atkinson said today, minus 198 at home and 6 over-under against the pretty lifeless Sharks. The Florida Panthers will go to Dallas. We did get Sagan news today. He is practicing, but he's not ready to return yet. It didn't sound like it was promising really this week, in my opinion, based on what the coach said, but it is progressing. They're a minus 115 home favorite and a 6 total. The Arizona Coyotes will go to Minnesota. I feel like we just watched this game. I think it was Saturday. Wasn't it Saturday or was it Sunday? Was it Sunday this game was? No. Maybe it was Friday.
Like
I don't really know anymore.
Yeah.
It was like Friday.
It was Friday.
Minus 192 Minnesota home favorite. They had like 3 empty net goals. I just remember watching that and being like, put the goalie back in. The game's over. Minus 125 on the over 6. And you might be hoping for those empty net goals if you bet that. The Anaheim Ducks to take on the Chicago Blackhawks in the Macklin Celebrini Bowl is a dead pick 'em, minus 110 on both sides, and a minus 102 on the over 6. Colorado going to take on the Flames, a game that honestly, again, the Flames have been pretty good lately, but that could run out. They did sell at the deadline. It's a plus 142 on those Flames at home and a 6.5 minus 108. And finally, the Vegas Golden Knights go to Seattle, minus 135 on Vegas, second lowest total on the slate. It's plus money on that 6 at plus 100. Pretty good spread, I feel like, on games overall. So yeah, I think there's, I as well say, I feel like the normal chalk isn't in the best matchups in the world. And some of the weirder teams like Philly and Montreal, like Pittsburgh and Ottawa, just might mix in enough where I really feel like ownership's gonna be pretty spread out here. That's kind of the way I feel. What do you think?
I think the most owned players will score 1 trillion points, and none of this will matter. That's what I think will happen. Realistically speaking, I do believe that Pittsburgh is going to be just kind of piled on yet again. Just that's what's been happening. They're going to be slight favorites, it seems like, in a 6.5 total with a lot of value up and down their lineup. Otherwise, the Flyers are going to be monstrous. Chalk, Tippett, Konechny, we know who their offense runs through. And then probably Minnesota as well. So that's, assuming Minnesota lines stay intact with their top line, it's pretty clear where you'd want to go in stacking those guys. So I think that'll capture a lot of the ownership on this slate, which, like you say, maybe it's not the McKinnons of the world getting 50% ownership, but it's still good players in good spots. So I don't know that there's a ton of fragility there, except for maybe Pittsburgh, which we will talk about. Anyway, let's start things off with the Rangers at Carolina. Carolina takes on the Rangers, who are playing on a back-to-back, facing the New Jersey Devils as we record this podcast. I don't believe there's anything all that interesting on the Rangers side of things. Jacob Trouba's out. Adam Fox should play. He was questionable for Monday's game due to illness. He played, so assuming he finishes the game, I would imagine he's all systems go for Tuesday. But anything you want to say about the Rangers as far as how they profile in this matchup, which, I think we agree it's not the best matchup in the world.
No, I think Carolina's put the boots on the throttle. I mean, they played, like I said, a pretty, like, the Flames were rolling, and they come in there, and I watched that entire first period. I watched most of the second. The Flames had like one shot attempt in the first period. I mean, it was 2 different teams. It was the Globetrotters. And that was a Flames team. They just came off a huge, but didn't they just murder Tampa? Am I losing my mind? I really do think that this is a Carolina team that I'm putting in the same bracket with Florida. And what was the third team I mentioned? I can't even remember now. But those two for sure that I'm just kind of staying away from. And I normally stay away from Carolina, but I've been a little bit maybe not. Maybe I'll target them here or there. I think that's over. Vegas would be the other team that's to start the year, but I kind of got away from that. There's just no need. Like the Rangers are not cheap. Like you're paying $9K for Panarin in this matchup. I mean, you're just trying to get away from. I know one's going to play him, but they shouldn't. I don't know.
I'm losing my mind here. Hold on. For you YouTube folks, you're gonna enjoy this as to why my what? Hold on. Look at this. Let's see.
Yeah, I think I know what you did, but
look. What?
Oh,
why is Detroit Buffalo first? And then on the other tab in the exact same contest, it's Rangers Carolina. I'm losing my.
It's funny because
mind.
I literally you said Carolina and the Rangers, and I was like, I made a noise because I was like, huh? I'm like, all right, well, we'll get to it. I'm sure. I'm not worried about it, but I did make like a little like gasp. I just was not expecting that. I was just looking at Buffalo, and then you said that, and I was like, that's okay. I can pivot. This game sucks. I don't have much to say. Like,
I am so very confused. Anyway. So starting off with, I guess, whatever this tab says is the right game to start with. Yeah, Rangers, I don't have any interest back to back, blah, blah, blah. Panarin has been playing pretty well. We see him sort of reach the top end of the slate as far as the expected fantasy points go. Vinny Trocheck is also interesting. Minor sub note, if you're not paying attention to underdog stuff, but you care about it. Rangers do play 5 games this week, which is kind of interesting. Just very reliant or on any team that's reliant on the Rangers, sure to have a good best puck week this week if you made it this far. So just still something there. But certainly, guys playing well. It's just that they're really expensive now. Kreider 7,400, Panarin 9K, Trocheck 7,100. It's not like a can't miss matchup for me. You're not getting a ton of value anymore. So that's why I'm just comfortable saying full fade, no interest. On the Carolina side of the house, I guess you can go back to the Svechnikov, power play one type well with like guys like Kuznetsov and obviously Aho and Jarvis, but it's kind of gross to correlate like across lines and across power play units. And frankly, I'm not sure that this Rangers team is as bad as their expected goals indicate. I mean, Igor's playing very well lately, and we've seen this Rangers team give up a lot of expected goals without giving up a lot of goals for years now. So it's a bit less like, oh yeah, we got to jump on that when it's Igor playing at peak strength. It seems like he'll go in this game, given Quick got the start Monday. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a ton of interest in Carolina despite this. Despite this expected goals index, I guess is my case. So it seems like you're on board with me, but anything you want to mention here?
Oh, this might not look as good as I thought it would because it's way to the side. What
are you doing?
Hold on. Let's do this. I was trying to show. Yeah, this will work. No, it's okay. This is fine for now. I mean, last game, like I mentioned, Carolina put the absolute boots to the Flames. And I mean, if you look at this chart, this is the 5-on-5 matchups. Everything's blue because that means Carolina was dominating possession and shots and whatnot. And that was a game that they were leading the entire time. I mean, again, this team is on another planet right now. I have no interest in betting against them. But yeah, let's go back to your screen. You're already set up, and we can move on.
Yeah, the only guy, I mean, Kuznetsov 3,200, he's going to play power play one. He's going to be with Natchez at 5-on-5. I don't think he's the dumbest one-off in the world. Like, I get it. He's the exact sort of player who I don't like to one-off because, it's kind of unlikely he hits a shots bonus. And, if he hits, you're probably going to bring Natchez or Jarvis or Aho or Svechnikov with him. The problem is that those guys are more expensive than Kuznetsov is, and 3,200 is a clear value. So that's, I think that's one guy you can play pretty much without regard to ownership or stacking or whatever. Like the talent's there. We tilted our faces off at him not scoring the easiest goal of all time on Sunday, but like I think he's going to be in those positions more often than not, and that's just a mispricing in my opinion. So Anything else before you take us into Detroit Buffalo?
No, let's just get over it. We'll start with the Sabres. I mean, they've actually been. I think we have to say good. I don't know if I want to say great. I mean, they beat Edmonton, and I felt like that was actually a deserved win. Tuck played 27 minutes in that one. I mean, there was overtime. That does help. Darlene and Power play a ton, unsurprisingly. Like it's just Darlene and Power. I mean, Darlene and Byram together, and then Power Yokiharu. Those two pairings are out there all the time. It is Byram on that second power play, in case you're wondering. Not that it matters that much. I do kind of look at this Sabres team and wonder, like, we're going to kind of get to where ownership could end up going and thinking about Darlene, Thompson, Tuck. It should be Greenway with them at 5-on-5, which is not that much fun. He should be back. But I don't know if I really care that much because they will put them out there more than the last line made in, as it, at least would, I perceive. I think I could get there. This Detroit team, I just really think sucks. Do you think Buffalo's going to be too popular as to where that doesn't make a lot of sense?
No, you're cutting in and out a bit, but I don't think Buffalo is going to get much ownership at all. The only thing that could bring them up is the fact that Bo Byram, you mentioned second power play. I think even on the top power play, he's been playing sort of the Skinner role with Cousins, Darlene, Tage, and Tuck. So I Bo Byram is absolutely killing it in Buffalo through 2 games. He looks every bit the sort of super stud that we're hoping he is as a Sabres fan. So the price that I'm trying to pull up now that I've sacrificed my other tab to the screen, at 3,400 for Bo Byram is just a little bit ridiculous. He has 3 shots and 4 shots in his first 2 games, 25 minutes in each game, and again the power play role and glued to Darlene's hip. I think that Byram is really the only piece in this game I'm all that interested in. I guess if you want to say Alex Tuck, go right on ahead, but I would stack him with Tage, and I'm not sure I'm making room for 3 Buffalo Sabres here against a Detroit team that, even if they're not giving up, even if you're saying, oh, well, their goaltending, blah, 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 it's unsustainable, or like their defense is unsustainable, blah, blah, blah. They're not giving up a ton of chances either. Like just across the board, their pace is down. It's been like this for a while. They're not giving up any goals really. So like, yeah, you can bet on regression, but I don't know. I don't really see much of a reason to like go all in on these Buffalo guys who can't. I mean, they can't do much of anything. I believe. I actually had flipped the Buffalo Detroit, so I guess Detroit is giving up some. But yeah, I don't know. Call me crazy. I'm not stacking the Buffalo Sabres here on a 10-game slate.
No.
Significant
It is.
things.
Yeah, it is. I feel like trying to buy the low here as far as pricing is concerned, and it's felt like that for like 2 months now, where it's like once every and I never end up doing it. I'm like, the Sabres team getting a little cheap, and then it's like because they're bad, and then I realize it the next day. So yeah, I'm fine with everything you're saying. On the other side, the other team is also bad, but they're bad and they're not fun. Bad. It's like bad and good, maybe bad and boring. It's like, what are we really doing here? So I see, Perron does make your list. He's been better than terrible. I mean, what it honestly feels like in Detroit right now is that they're trying to rely on Patrick Kane and DeBrincat to do way more heavy lifting than they're able to do. And I'm not saying they're bad players, but they need someone that can lift them up a bit more to get them into the offensive zone. And Conference isn't that guy. So now it's like, how do you win? You need guys like Perron to go crazy. And while the power play one seems to be a little bit easier to like consider with Fabry, Raymond, Gostisbehere, Kane, and DeBrincat getting more of the lion's share of the minutes. I mean, not here, not now.
Yep. And just to sort of, it's tough with natural stat trick and trying to get these expected fantasy points thing in. The traded guys will not show up because they're on multiple teams in the data pool. So when you look at just the 2 games that Byram has in Buffalo, he would actually make the list, somewhere down in the like right above Alex Newhook is where he slots in, obviously, as a defenseman. You don't see a ton of defensemen make this list all that often. So it's just 2 games. Don't go crazy about it. But he would show up on the values side of the house if we had perfect data and everything was perfectly cleaned and whatever. Given his stint in Buffalo so far. So I think there's enough value here to maybe go to this game for a one-off or two. I like the Perron mention you had, but not overly interested. Again, barring significant news that changes sort of how we're thinking about these 2 teams and how they're deploying things. So let's keep things going over into Columbus and Montreal. Hoping now the order that I have is the same as the orders you have, so we don't have any more surprises here. But why don't you take us away?
This game is interesting. I'm not sure how interesting. I feel like it's kind of one of those where I don't think it's as sneaky as I'd like it to be on either side. And that's mainly Montreal doesn't feel like it could be. Like, I don't really think there's many people that are going to look at this matchup and not at least consider Montreal won with just how much the offense has gone through them, how correlated it is, how many minutes they're getting. Last game against Toronto in a game they lost by 1, Slavkovsky had 21 minutes, Caulfield 22, Suzuki 25. The run is monstrous, and it's all the power play run with Matheson and Newhook, who can play. Like, all those guys can play. There's not a guy on that I think is bad. I also, on the other hand, think that Columbus is starting to figure it out, and I actually really, really like the line that I know me and Matt don't really want to talk about, but I love Chinikov with Gaudreau and Jenner. I think that is pretty dynamite. He was lethal at hitting the post and not getting the puck on net and absolutely burning my bet. They won 11-6 last game. I can't imagine that happens again, but I think a lot more people are going to look at this Nylander, Sillinger, Texier. They've been rolling. Nylander had a ton of shots. He's now 4,600. I think that should deter you completely and totally. I don't think it'll deter everyone. I would so much rather play a guy at the exact same price almost than Johnny Gaudreau at 4,700. Seems very logical, but I wonder if people don't go right back to the well. Gaudreau, Chinikov, Jenner. I could be, like I said, convinced either way on this game because I really do like it. I think there's a good chance for good pace. So do you want to try to convince me of anything else, or are you leaning one way or another?
The primary issue is that this Montreal top line is actually one that, like relative to the team matchup, like the Suzuki matchup is very difficult. So you're not really gaining anything by like stacking top lines on the road in Montreal at this point. Like, guess what? The Blue Jackets are going to have a higher team total than they have in just about any spot, all season because, these guys are not very good in Montreal. But the first line is playing quite well. It's really a thing where I think their depth is more exploitable. And basically, Columbus has nothing that I want to exploit as far as depth goes, honestly. And if anything, I might even be more inclined to just pick on the Montreal side. So I guess that means I'm kind of ruling out Columbus personally. I understand the stacking, but Boone Jenner's a bit too expensive for my liking, and I think that the value you get on Slavkovsky and Caulfield is sort of more than makes up for it, in my opinion. This Nick Suzuki price that's close to Boone Jenner, admittedly, but not crazy different. And then you mix in guys like Newhook, Josh Wasman showing out lately. Like, it's not great, it's pretty thin, but I would rather go with the home team, I think, given they're relatively similar profile wise. Columbus is, I think, third on this, or no, Montreal is third on the slate. Columbus is sixth, right in the same tier though. So yeah, it's a bit of a coin flip. I'll take the Montreal side though, and I'll just stick with the first line. As much as I like Chinikov, Jenner, Gaudreau, I'm not afraid of that line defensively at all.
No.
So yeah, that's I guess where my head's at.
Yeah, at home last game for Columbus, they did do as much as humanly possible to get that Jenner line out against the O'Reilly, Forsberg, Nyquist line, and it was decently split, but a lot of offense there. So I do think that Columbus will try that. Obviously, they're on the road, so I do, like you're saying, Montreal can maybe find some matchups. But yeah, again, interested in all of it. is there anything else here? Are you ready to move on to another game that I mean, again, we already talked about, really popular Pittsburgh Ottawa.
I guess defenseman wise, Zach Werenski stands out as one of the top guys on the slate, just from a like one off whatever. Like obviously you can stack him too. Matheson's rates really haven't been there. I know he was high up on our list, and therefore high in our sort of what we were talking about for a good stretch of the season. Caden Gooley's got like the same exact expected fantasy point output. It's like near 7. Like it's really bad. For Mike Matheson as of late, only 43 shot attempts in his last 10 games. No primary assists either. So maybe it's just a lull, but it's certainly not someone that I'm looking to spend a ton of money on if I do end up stacking this top line. Like I think I can find better defensemen for, in the 6K range for sure. And if, just go cheaper if it allows you to spend up on a different stack rather than go into the cheap zone with a Montreal sort of 4-man stack. So just a little note there. Pittsburgh, sure. Ottawa though. Erik Karlsson revenge spot. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, again, I mentioned it off the top. I think Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust, and Raquel actually get ownership here. I don't know. Brian Rust looked great coming back. Can we really go back to the well for the 98th time with this Pittsburgh, with these Pittsburgh dudes? They're finally getting what seems like a good matchup with Ottawa, but man, just the absolute most trolly game of all time. Well, what are you thinking here?
Yep. I think I agree. I really, at the end of the day, I really don't think this Ottawa team they're not, what did I say to you? I'm trying to remember. I feel like I phrased it really well, where I was like, they're not, like, I think I think they're better than they are, but they have no ability to like score. I'm trying to even remember. I said something that felt like it was right and astute, and now I'm completely blanking on it. Do you remember?
I don't. I know you said Tim Stützle stinks, so welcome to the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't recall.
Both of these teams are to some extent playing their big guns as much as possible. Let's just go in order here. Let's just start with Pittsburgh. Bunting, Crosby, Raquel, all power play one correlated last game. They ran the entire time on the power play with Puustinen and Karlsson. Malkin's gone. Just rest in peace. Love you, buddy, but see you later.
I don't know what happened, man. I'm so
I don't know what happened.
But I also screwed up. It's not Raquel, it's Bunting. Good call there. With Rust and so that's the stack that I think will be pretty owned.
Yeah, Rust returns. So again, yeah. So right, is he officially in is the question, because he didn't play last game. I think he's 95%.
Yeah, Rust played last game.
Oh, he did play. Oh, wow. You're right. He played against Edmonton, not against Boston. That's right. Why did that? Yeah, he had like 6 shots on goal. You're right. I remember seeing that now. I literally completely blanked for a second on that. I was like, why did I think he played? I'm looking at the wrong game. Rust, Bunting, Crosby. Rust, Bunting, Crosby, Raquel. Yeah, I added Puustinen, and it's not him. It's now Rust. Okay, back on track. I do think Bunting, Crosby, Rust will be highly owned. They got absolutely demolished by Edmonton. Luckily for them, they're playing Ottawa. They might not get demolished by Ottawa, but I really don't think this game is as cracked up as the ownership's going to be. So I'm out on Pittsburgh for sure. And on the Ottawa side, you're, in my opinion, still paying a decent price for guys that just can't score.
Yep, and for both these teams, keep an eye out for lines. We don't, we don't have any information.
Ottawa practice today. It was about the same. This top 6 was the same. I think everything was the same. I don't know why. Maybe one guy swaps, but I don't remember even who.
Okay.
The top 6 was the same.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in this game from a defense standpoint, which the problem is if Erik Karlsson smashes or Chychrun smashes, given the way they've been deploying these guys, it does feel like there's going to be, like a Rust or a Kachuk or, whoever also smashes too. So that's a little bit of a problem. I guess maybe we'll check on Shabbat. I'm not looking at their practice formation right now, but to keep things moving, the main problem for me is, these defensemen are too cheap. Erik Karlsson, Chychrun are both playing a ton of minutes. I mean, Chychrun's near at 6 blocks plus shots a game over his last 10. Can't buy a point because, like you say, the team can't finish. And then Erik Karlsson sort of a very similar deal. Obviously, not quite as good in the blocks department, but pulling upwards of 25 minutes a night, getting a ton of shots on goal. Like he's the engine of their offense from the back end. Um, and I really do like these two plays. So ultimately, I think I could sort of shake off my, uh, I don't even call it a bias, just like a, hey, these guys stink out loud because both these teams stink out loud. So if I wind up choosing between Carlson or Chikrin, I honestly have no problem stacking around them. And just doing so in a very bland, boring way. Because, again, 10 game slate, I should not worry that much about ownership, and I don't want to get super fancy when guys like Bunting and even Rust feel like good values here. So uh, I think I cut you off saying something.
I was only going to add that it was Zub and Sanderson.
Okay.
So,
which sounds like Chabot did not practice and therefore would stay out.
oh yeah, and then Chikrin and I don't even know how to say his name. Gannett.
Yeah, sure.
He could be ended in theory, but
yeah, he played 11 minutes last game. So yeah, they're just playing. Like they're playing 5 dudes and just rotating them. It's not really like a standard D pair deployment in Ottawa. So yeah, if Chabot plays, then downgrade everyone. But for now, the pricing makes it so that they're all in play. All right, let's keep it going. San Jose, Philly. My God, what an absolute disaster Saturday was. Torts even got suspended. Like, I mean, if I could have gotten suspended for the things I said to various officials, I probably would have, because my lord, having 5 defensemen and getting that. I know you tweeted out the blocks parlay or whatever that hit, like cool, made some money back there. But having York, Sanheim, and Adard play like 20, I mean, York played like 30 minutes. Actually, he'll play 26, but them playing all the minutes and getting somewhat there and just nothing happening because the game was over in 10 minutes. What was really disappointing. And while everyone, Eric Brandstrom got a blocks bonus for 25% of the field, like just an absolute joke. But anyway, we're going to see some weird stuff on Saturday's game for Philly. We're not expecting them to only have 5 available defensemen. So that's, just not really a factor here. I mean, we're going to see monster chalk on Philly. Owen Tippett, Travis Konechny are playing like players who should be in the 700 mold of like a Phil Forsberg. They're not. They're not there. They're sub 7K, and they get a matchup at home against a San Jose team. That is bad. So, yeah, I mean, is the Torts effect real? Are the boys going to rally for Torts here? Or what do you think?
Obviously, and even further to defensive issue, Sanheim didn't practice today, and they said that he was dealing with a small injury. So do keep an eye on all of it, because that would, that could.
He sure looked like he had
practice,
a major injury. Okay, well,
it looked bad. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not trying to say that Cam York at 50% is something that we could see and or I might play, but he could be. I mean, he really could be incredibly expensive. He was on the power play with Forrester, Tippett, Therapy. I don't know. I mean, what happens if Sanheim's out? I mean, Ronnie Etter, do you play? I mean, it's going to be really, really interesting to keep an eye on. And like you said, there's obvious guys in Tippett and Konechny that you could go through. Keep an eye on what the lines look like. It was Forrester, Couturier, Konechny. I think that makes more logical sense. But I definitely don't mind pivoting to Tippett, Konechny, and just saying, who cares? Yeah, I mean, Forrester, throw them all in. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, anything can happen here. So, yeah, I kind of like I like this game, but I think if I'm playing Philly, I'm not going to do something that I believe will be ultra chalky. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if Zamula is still sick, that's the main, if both Zamula and Sanheim miss, Adard, I think, has to be in play. He's been fine. He's played a couple games. And whatever. He also looks good in the minors, getting shots on goal or whatnot. He's still the minimum. So I suppose that's the punt du jour. I doubt the field gets there. Yeah, you're right. Cam York probably is pretty popular, but honestly for good reason. He's eating pucks, he's taking shots, he's putting up points as well. So really like the player from a prospect profile standpoint. I put a bit in the Discord about it on Saturday, I think it was. Maybe it was last pod. I don't know. Does that sound familiar to you or no? Before I pull
Yeah.
something up again.
No, yeah, you definitely put something. Yeah, I'm almost positive you did.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
Okay. Here we go. From the
that's the majority. I mean,
7th,
anything
which
on San Jose.
is
Yeah, yeah.
that's a podcasting
Want me to
then that
talk
we
about?
did. So
Want me
go
to talk
ahead,
about
San
San
Jose.
Jose for 4 seconds while you do this? It was Barabanov,
Yep.
Granlund, Zetterlund. They scored both their goals on the power play. They were both Bortolo on the top unit. He played with Sturm and Hoffman. Hoffman, I believe, is out. I don't know if we got that confirmed yet, but I think he's pretty unlikely, to be honest. He took a pretty weird hit from the chuck into the boards that I thought would be a penalty, but wasn't. Definitely keep an eye on it, but it doesn't matter that much. Needless to say, Bortolo kind of feels like a decent punt option, especially as a bring back. I think it'll be at least somewhat popular. Uckland was the other guy on that top unit. So, yeah, I mean, Barabanov was not, in case you're wondering. It was Granlund, Zetterlund, Addison, Uckland, and Bortolo. I think people might just say I'm playing Bortolo on the other side. I think I'm just going to completely X out the Sharks from all my consideration, but I definitely understand it. 3,500. He's a decent prospect.
Yeah, I'm incredibly frustrated by it because like it always sucks to have guys you like show up and get roles and then get popular immediately and then you don't play them and they smash because it just happens
Because
that
you
way.
didn't play them.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it feels. But yeah, Bordelo's like a good prospect. He's not, he's not like, oh my god, like jam him in at 12%, like in so matchups, which everything's a so matchup or worse for San Jose. So I'm just not going there. And if it continues to
Yep.
burn me, whatever. But pricing wise, I think I'd rather I don't know. Would I rather play Zadina than other punts on the slate? I don't think so. Bordelo, same deal. So yeah, I don't know. Let's just move on. Like
Perfect. Like, I
I
feel like,
opened up
honestly,
Kevin
at the end of the
Labank's
day,
game log because
don't do that to
he's
yourself.
actually 2,500. That's the problem. Like if he plays 15 minutes at 2,500, like that's different than a guy at 3,500. Like again, like it's just
Yeah.
the upper level of salary moving so much this year where McKinnon is 10.5, like it matters that these guys are 3,500 instead of 25. So if you're punting, I say just punt all
Yeah.
the way,
Honestly,
especially if a guy like Hoffman's
I
out.
think, yeah. I think if you're, again, I totally agree with everything you're saying, but I think if you're actively putting in a 3,500 Bortolo and you're not eating up a center spot with Uckland instead, like I get the rates are bad for Uckland, but like, man, he's so freaking good. He has points in 5 straight for a reason. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to move on before I convince myself to play someone stupid. Let's talk
All
about
right,
Florida and
cool.
Dallas, a game that I'm probably not going to play. I just automatically saying no to Dallas here. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, as I started the podcast by talking about how I'm not stacking against Florida. I'm pretty sure no one has successfully done it has Florida been stacked against and won a slate on the entire season? I would be interested to know. I'm going to guess no. Dallas is also very difficult to, pick. There's 2 lines that make a lot more sense than the others. The one that was very, very cheap is no longer. Wyatt Johnston's over 5K. Johnston, I say it wrong every time. Logan Stankoven is 4,500 and also a center. So that kind of hurts how you're going to stack that. Not sure why they're continuously putting them like that, but they are.
They
Jamie
had him
Benn
at
also
wing
coming up in
like
price,
a
no
week
longer
ago.
3,300. Yeah, last week. I
I'm
know.
almost I'm almost certain for one of those slates he was a wing, and all of a sudden, whatever.
I swear on my life. I swear on my life you're right on that. And that's why I was like trying to look if I could find that,
Yeah.
but I don't think you can that easily. The point being in all of this is that line is now more expensive. Are you pivoting to Dallas 1 and you just know the matchup's terrible against, like, no, just don't do it. Florida does lose Ekblad for about, I believe, a week or 2, they said. So, yeah, a little bit worse defensively. Rodriguez, questionable, but probably, I think, going to play. I'm not playing Dallas. Anything on Dallas, or ready to talk about Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I had to pick between these two teams, I'm probably playing Dallas, honestly. Florida's underlyings do not look that good. They're just getting
Nope.
bailed out by an incredible goalie run, which happens. And the underlyings are the underlyings. There's a reason that they're not everything. But I mean, when you talk about everything, this Johnston line is everything. So they've made Jamie Benn look like a supreme value, even at
Yeah.
$4,500. So it's just one of those things where, yeah, the line's gone up in price. Has it gone up enough? Probably not. You mix in the fact that they cannot be more than 4% owned on this slate. Like, in good
No.
matchups will be more owned, but in this one, I don't think they will catch any sort of ownership. And yeah, again, the center stuff is annoying, but you can work your util pretty easily, I think, on this slate. To fit in, Johnston, Stankoven, and Ben. You just play one of Miro or Harley if you really want. But I think that's what I would do in this game, if anything. But I'm not strong on that at this point.
Yeah, they put their absolute. I mean, they got up on LA at one point, and then they're just like, okay, thumb on them. 1.5 expected
Yeah,
goals for LA. It was just
yeah,
over. I know you were watching intently because you had Talbot, and I mean, again, you were one, maybe two goals coming back away from having a sweat there because they could have had it felt like they could have had 100 shots. I think they are that
Mhm.
good. I'm not playing Florida either. So yeah, it's a full fade for me
Yeah,
here. I guess I slow rolled it a little bit on you. I was like, I'm fading one team and then got to the other. Yeah, not doing it. This Dallas
yeah.
team rocks and they're deep because that second line isn't bad. It just isn't as explosive. That Duchesne, Steele, Marchment, there's just no explosion there, but they're fine. And their fourth line is honestly not terrible. Like the Landria can play. Fosca can shut people down, and they barely play them because they don't need to, because they can roll these other three. It's just, again, it's an unbelievably good team playing an unbelievably good team in a game that I just don't really think is going to be ultra explosive. So
Yeah,
I can move on.
that's about right. All right. So if we look at the next game, we got Arizona and Minnesota. Um, yeah, it's not going to surprise you that Kirill Kaprizov is going to be massively popular, and
Should be.
yeah, I don't know, Minnesota. Just, I mean, the absolute stones to pull the goalie there in overtime. It's really
Loved
cool.
it.
Like it's a weird, like I like to think there was an actual strategy of let's trap like Forsberg specifically on the ice
Yeah.
in the 4v3, and I hope that's the case because if you're just randomly pulling a dude to if you're just randomly pulling the goalie and not thinking about that, then it's kind of a weird decision. Given you've already
Yeah.
given up the point to your to the guys you're chasing. Like you're not like, I don't know, pull the goalie at the end of
Yeah.
regulation. Like, but anyway,
I think it was, yeah. I honestly do think it was that specific. I think that he thought if
okay,
they were going to go for it at the end, I really do. And they were stuck out there, and I think it was because the quote after was that he didn't tell any of the players, but he mentioned it to Fleury to keep an eye on him. So I think he had exactly what he wanted, and he said, "Let's do it." And it was awesome. I love that ending. I want more of that in the NHL all the time. I am not going to sit here. I mean, the torch thing is the torch thing. It also probably doesn't matter that much once the puck gets dropped. This feels like a galvanizing type of situation in Minnesota as they claw back to probably missing the playoffs by 3 points instead of 5. But again, I like Minnesota one here. It's not that I don't. Matt Boldy, 6,500, has come down 500 over the past three slates, and he had a 30 burger and scored that OT winner because he should be out there and he should be playing 22 minutes, and he's incredibly good, and he's playing with Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek. So I'm in on it. Like, I think of all the top stacks that you're paying through the nose for, this is the one I would do it. I think Arizona's absolutely dust. They went out against Chicago and gave up 4.2 expected goals. Obviously, Bedard was everywhere and had 1.25 expected goals on his own and scored
yeah.
twice and at the post. Give me again, but is Bedard right now that much better than Kaprizov? Equal to, like, wherever you want to put it. Maybe that is a bad example. One game sample size, Sunday night,
I
whatever,
mean, it
right? But
is
like,
it is a 2 game sample size because Chicago's beaten Arizona twice in the past week. So,
yeah,
um,
that's true.
you know,
Minnesota, I guess the main point is Minnesota is going all out. They are saying
yeah,
we're going for it. They're playing Kaprizov 24 minutes. They're playing Zuccarello's getting out there with them as well. They're kind of, you could do it. And you could include Zuccarello. I mean, you go all the way. Just don't play Brock Faber probably, but go all the way with the forwards. I might do it, honestly. Like, there you go. I said it.
Yeah.
I might play Minnesota against Arizona. I'm bold. Take it away.
Yeah. 100%. That's pretty much it. If you need a punt, Bogosian's played a bunch. Just near 20 minutes in his last 4, 20 plus in his last 2. Again, it's gross, but if you need a punt, I think he's a pretty good option for a guy to get a bunch of minutes here. Arizona, I guess we can mention that Hayton Keller seems like a thing again, and Schmaltz. They started the game with those different lines. Didn't really happen. The starters were Hayton, Schmaltz, Keller, so they seem fine to mix in stacking wise. Though again, they're gonna get the meat of this Eriksson matchup, which doesn't really bear fruit for many. So I don't really think that's a thing on this slate that I'm interested in. So let's just keep it going. Anaheim and Chicago. Another team that Chicago is maybe equal to for Connor Bedard to just sort of run around against. I mean, what a game last time out, 38.5. What's I guess the most interesting is that it was bubbling under the surface for him. Like on that Sunday slate, there were 5 teams playing, I think, and he was second in expected fantasy points, and he was like 10th or 11th by actuals. It might even be lower than that. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now. But it was basically like, yeah, the regression all came in one fell swoop for our young child king. And yeah, this is another really good spot for him. So one, are you interested in Bedard? And if so, sort of how are you looking at stacking him given sort of how he's currently being deployed?
Yeah. Last 5 games, 9.2 shot attempts per game for Bedard. He had 12 in that game against Arizona. To no surprise if you watched it. 6,700. It feels like, honestly, the value of the night. I'm not saying you have to do it. And if you look at his game logs, you're going to say, well, best 2, he's had 12 shots on goal. 1 in the 2 and before. He's shooting. And he is shooting. His line mates are bad, but are they that bad that you couldn't play them? You know what I mean? Like, the reason why that makes him such an unbelievable value is like Foligno is actually probably playable with him. I know we've beat that drum before. He's 4,100. Courage at 4,200. I think you could go all the way here. I really do. I think people are going to leave one or both of them off. Just everyone's going to solo Bedard. Maybe they take a look at Seth Jones, who's also been, 5 shots, 4 assists last game, 6 points in his last 3. Like, maybe people convince themselves to pay up for Seth Jones. This is a good matchup. It's never going to look amazing because of how bad Chicago is. Like, they even make Arizona look like Anaheim look like they might be not terrible, but mid. But it's not a mid matchup for Bedard. It's a mid matchup for players that are terrible on this team. The Blackwell line's going to roll against the top guys in Anaheim as much as possible. They have been very good, actually. Blackwell, Dickinson, and Joey Anderson at shutting down. And Blackwell had a hat trick. I mean, albeit a couple of shorthanded goals there, but still, like, you're not going to be getting that bad of matchups either. I mean, Anaheim's going to do whatever Anaheim's going to try to do, but what are they shutting down with at this point? I don't know.
Not much.
They got bullied by the Islanders. It should have been much, much, much worse. They tried their best to put, I believe it was, let me just look. They tried to, they had nothing for the Horvat Barzal. I mean, they just mixed it up at some point. There was nothing they could have done. They were just getting bullied. So
Yeah, of course.
I'm in. I mean, you know what? I think that it's easy.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. You play Bedard, you play Seth Jones, and then you just pick one of Kurashev or Foligno. I have a slight lean toward Kurashev. Just if Bedard's going to shoot, if Seth Jones is going to shoot, I guess you're more reliant on Foligno getting like rebounds and garbage, and Kurashev to sort of set things up. And he's been a bit more, I guess, dynamic as a player over the last little stretch too. I mean, it's not a surprise that Nick Foligno is not dynamic at all, but Kurashev looks fine out there. So I think you just pick one, and then you just make sure you play Bedard and Seth Jones in your Chicago stacks. One player to keep an eye on his deployment is Max Jones. Just sort of where he slots in morning skate could tell us a decent amount. With all the, I guess, Leo Carlson, if he's expected to return Thursday, so that means he's out Tuesday. So playing alongside Mason McTavish, if that sticks, I think he's an interesting value. The Chicago team is nothing defensively, and Max Jones has really good underlying rates per minute. And this is sort of the only time we've seen him get a true power play plus top 6 role alongside Killorn and McTavish here. So I like that a little bit, but not nearly as much as the Bedard stuff, honestly.
Agreed. I think that's correct. And I think that, I'm not actually afraid to stack against the Colin Blackwell line for heaven's sakes, but I think they'll put them up against Terry. So I just kind of realized I was like, this Blackwell line's great. And I'm like, yeah, it's not Patrice Bergeron in his prime or nothing. I mean, you could play Anaheim too. Chicago is still very bad, but are they as bad as the Ducks? I'm honestly starting to think with the way Bedard's rolling, the answer is just no. So we can move on to the final 2 games. 2 games I don't have a ton of interest in either. I really feel like I've already kind of spilled the beans on what my plan is. Is there anything else before we get over to Colorado and the Flames?
No, just imminent sadness for Flames, Colorado. I mean, I honestly kind of want to lead off here because this Flames team is actually playing some decent hockey. I know they just got spanked by both Carolina and Florida. And they didn't do much of anything in they went 20 minutes without a shot against the Panthers, or no, against Carolina there on Sunday. But if you zoom out just a little bit, they're actually playing really, really well. Again, Sharon Govich is going nuclear thanks to Jonathan Huberdeau doing stuff. Huberdeau, I've watched them the last few games. He still sucks out loud. But when he makes the stupid passes and they work, guess what? You have brilliant scoring chances because 90% of the time he just gives the puck away for breakaways or whatever the hell he does. And all their guys are shooting. Kadri, Backlund, Mangiapane continues to just not be priced for the amount of shots he's putting up on goal. And they're going against this goddamn McKinnon guy who just can't stop scoring goals now. It's just the absolute bane of my existence. The reason I'm going to lose all my best puck shit is because of Nathan McKinnon. And it's a really good matchup, I think, for both sides. And the problem is we know how this ends. Colorado's going to win 6-1 and McKinnon's going to have 4 points and no one on Calgary gets there. But there is a lot to like when you dig in a bit and you see, oh, wow, these Calgary guys are cheap. They're playing a bunch. Their fourth line's non-existent, seeing how pending all the changes that come after getting smoked back-to-back like Calgary did, they're not playing their bottom guys and their top guys are cheap and playing really well. So I guess this is just my, rip to me because I'm going to be really hard pressed to not take a hard look at Calgary here, given what I expect to be no ownership at home. At home? Yeah, at home against the McKinnon led team that, yeah, they're good, but they give up a lot defensively as well.
Yeah. A, yes. B, lucking in day to day, will travel. It seems like Valery Netushkin might be on that top line tomorrow. Top power play in his place. So keep an eye on that. And, if you are stacking Colorado, there's your guy. Makar's been red hot again. I think he's pretty far expensive defenseman on this entire slate. Yeah, by a lot. Dahlin is second at 6,900. Colorado's wicked expensive. They are well deserving of it. Their Tushkin makes sense. You're kind of back into that mold of to play, McKinnon, their Tushkin, to play McKinnon, whoever. So that the obvious narrative that you're building is, I think, let's try to figure out who is going to get the least amount of run against McKinnon for the Flames and kind of stack around them. You'd have to assume at home the back of the line is going to see the brunt of McKinnon force. If you're playing the Flames, of course, as you mentioned, that opens up whatever you want, right? Kadri, Kuzmenko, Coleman, not maybe my first pick, but whatever. Sharon Govich, Huberdeau, Peltier, Coronado, I don't really know. It just, again, I think I'm just going to end up spinning the wheels on this game a couple times, trying to see what what I can build, and then just getting mad and not playing it is just how I think this is going to go for me.
Yeah.
And that's about the size of it. And I agree. The Flames seem like a good pivot. They really do. Am I going to end up with it in my lineup? I don't think so.
Yep. So yeah, just keep an eye on how they shake things up. We saw some weird stuff where basically they took apart the fourth line and they moved a different fourth liner to each of the other three lines, and they basically just like threw
Yep.
Coronado to the fourth line. Um, so in all that to say, I'm not really interested in Coronado. We haven't seen them rely on him on the power play at all, and I don't think you need a 3K value if you're playing Calgary anyway. Like again, you're getting Mangiapane for 3,600, who I just think is a better value all things considered. You're getting Kuzmenko, similarly, so there's options that don't involve like actually thin plays, in my estimation. Let's see, is Zari eligible to return? I don't know. So maybe Zari returns and we get some more info there. But in any case, you're paying up for center for Calgary a little bit, but then you're getting really good values at wing, I think, which more than make up for it. So I like mini stacks, maybe a Backlund Mangiapane or a Sharon Govich Huberdeau, or again, whatever crazy shit they come up with in Morning Skate on Tuesday. And yeah, Colorado, do not play Casey Middlestat. Please, please, please. He was like 40% owned on Friday night. And I get it. It was a 4-game slate, but like against Minnesota, like he's Casey Middlestat, people. Do not play Casey Middlestat. Like you don't need to do this. Okay. Let's move on to Vegas and Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not all that interested here. I'll start with a team I'm less interested in Seattle at home. They did go back to Tolvin and Gord Bjorkstrand in practice. Burakovsky, McCann, Carte, right? Why am I blanking on it? Ty Carte. Yeah. Tatar, Beniers, Eberle, and then Yamamoto, Belmar, and Tanev. So no, what's his name? Done either in practice. Schwartz day to day. It's a bit of a mess already. I just think that I'm fully staying away from this team in a matchup that I think is only getting worse and worse over time. This Vegas team, they should have beat Detroit 7-0. Like, no, thank you. I'm not playing against this team right now. They are really, really, really good. I know they're missing a guy like Martinez that can play defense, but I honestly don't even know if he's that big of a concern, especially when you replace him with Hanifin, who I just think is better. And that pairing with Pietrangelo is world beating. So I'm fully staying away from Seattle. I get there's some value here, but I like the Flames value more. Anything on Seattle, or do you want to talk about this Vegas Golden Knights team?
Burakovsky and McCann is kind of interesting because, again, assuming Dunn misses, you're getting that Justin Schultz value that I kind of think is another can't miss. Just, like, yeah, the last game they played against Detroit was impressive. Detroit was also on a back-to-back, and they're Detroit. I don't really read that for much. And Vegas has been getting blown up by teams that they should not get blown up by, which is weird. Again, I don't think this is a long-term thing. Like, I think they'll be fine come the playoffs, but they're missing enough guys up front. There's enough of this sort of new guys trying to figure out what to do. I don't hate it that like Seattle does actually offer up some decent values and has some injury spots that like are the reason for those values existing. It's not like we're expecting those to disappear or like be, just like thin values. Like there's guys getting elevated roles with no Shorts, with no Dunn, that we can play into. So at home, also, I kind of like playing Burakovsky McCann personally, but again, I will. I understand what you're saying, and on the Vegas side, I think it's just like Theodore. If you want to pay, God, what is he up to? 6,600 for Jonathan Marchessault off a hat trick, go right on ahead. I don't really think it makes much sense, and I honestly don't really think I'll play any Vegas here.
Yeah,
there's too many spots I like otherwise on this slate to feel like I'm being fancy with some Vegas nonsense.
I mean, Barbashev is definitely interesting if you're playing Keuchel and Theodore. First power play. I mean, the 5-shot on goal game last game is probably a decent bit of an outlier for him, but he will, I guess if you give him the opportunity to shoot, he might. And he's playing with Eichel and Marchessault 5-on-5 in the power play. Yeah. So just 4 of those shots were on the power, 4 attempts were on the power play, 2 on net on the power play. So it's not like they're not giving him an opportunity to shoot there. I don't know. Just mention it. I'm not that interested, but yeah.
That was unexpected, which is weird. I guess we don't get honestly, we don't get a ton of good reporting from Vegas, which is weird because they're always tweeting and the emojis or whatever. They don't really tell us what's going on in morning skate. So that was unexpected on Barbashev. I guess that's an interesting thing to consider if we don't get it confirmed again and he's being projected incorrectly around the industry. But again, I doubt that'll be the case. But he's cheap enough where you can make that work. And even if if you wind up needing a $3,600 player and that role sticks, you can probably just play him as a one-off. Like that role feels like it should be worth more than whatever he had. I think he had like 6 shots in the 9 games leading up to last. It was just a weird lull for him in the midst of what's actually been a pretty productive second half of the season. All right. Top stacks, guarantee goals. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, top stacks for me. I will take Minnesota 1 off the board, and you can play Zuccarello or not. I think at 5,600, I'm probably in on it to make it a 4-man. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's go with the Montreal top line. I think this matchup is pretty interesting. Again, based on the expected goal pace, it's the highest paced game in general. And yeah, it's what, third based on actual goals at 5-on-5, maybe whatever, fourth, whatever. Top half of the slate, regardless of how you slice things. I don't think Montreal will get overly popular. It'll be interesting to see how Bedard versus Suzuki and Caulfield shake out ownership wise, because I feel like they're the guys competing most for ownership in this range. But I like Montreal here. I like the game a lot, and I feel like taking just the top line of Montreal, you can just say, yeah, both sides score, but maybe Columbus is a bit more spread out, and Montreal is certainly centralized around those 3 dudes who are really good in Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slavkovsky.
Okay. That's good. Do you have another? I'll just get honestly, I feel like if I'm playing Minnesota 1, I'm gonna end up just kind of bouncing around the board with some values and try to fit Bedard in as well if it's even possible. If I had to, gun to head, I think I'm just gonna say Couturier, Forrester, Konechny for now, and York, and maybe not even play Couturier if possible. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get a sense of how strong we feel that Vince Dunn misses here.
I don't know. Yeah, that was I just got
Yeah,
practice lines and that he wasn't there, but
yeah.
I definitely keep an eye
So
on
we
it.
have power plays as well, which is also interesting. So let me go with Seattle because maybe it's just the fact that we talked about them most recently, but I feel like from the value side, I'm looking at Seattle, Calgary. I guess Dallas technically is a value, though 15K. I'm not sure if that gets you a ton. And then I think that's about it. I guess San Jose might get a bit of ownership too. Um, and so I think Seattle goes very much not played. And they're at home again. Like I said, the total's not going to be there. But with no Vince Dunn, Justin Schultz is a genuinely good offensive defenseman. He's on the power play with Jared McCann. So I like that. Just 2-man right there. And then you play Burakovsky, who is with McCann at 5-on-5 and on the second power play unit. Yeah, Burakovsky's been playing some excellent hockey. Over the past 15 games or so, he's looked like the player they signed him to be finally. And 2,900, that's a substantial value for a actual game-changing offensive winger, in my opinion. So let's take advantage of some weak underlyings in Vegas, and move on to guarantee goals.
Okay. I mean, I think I'm just taking Bedard no matter what. So Bedard.
Okay, I like
I don't
that.
even. I just don't think I'm gonna look at the sports books have caught up. But yeah, let me know. You got.
I'm gonna go Wyatt Johnston, 5,300. I'm liking the mid tier quite a bit, and Johnson at center just feels like a good way to go about things.
I mean, it's much less egregious, of course, but the amount of times I just hit my hand on my desk when I say Johnson instead of Johnston, I cannot stop. And I don't know if anyone notices but me, who corrects myself every single time, but I do it every single time and I get mad at myself. So I do want to apologize publicly to our friend Wyatt Johnston, who I just said his name correctly, and I'm very proud of myself. Now, I took Bedard and I tried to look what his goal odds were, and they are not listed, of course. It's a little early yet. No need to fret. Do you have another one though, so I can look into 4,300?
So you can look into 4,300. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Yegor Sharangovich. 5,100 here. I just think the Calgary guys are interesting. Sharangovich has been the quote unquote best of the bunch. And I think that makes a ton of sense given he's playing with two guys in Coronado and Huberdeau, that we think who are very good offensive playmakers. Coronado will shoot a bit when they let him. And yeah, Sharangovich has been shooting a bunch, but getting good chances and playing a ton without Elias Lindholm in the lineup. So all things pointing up for Mr. Sharangovich there.
Yeah, I mean, I could very, very easily take Cam York here. I honestly think it's probably going to be a value, but I'm going to go with Igor Chinikov. The guy was electric. He's playing with Jenner and Gaudreau, and I think he has an elite NHL shot. So he's going to be like plus 350 in that Montreal game, and I think that game could be a good one for goals in general. So I'm in.
I will take what if it's not posted yet, I will take whatever's closer to like plus 185 on Chinikov. But
you think it'll be plus 185 for him to score?
Official bet
Is that what you're
is
saying?
he's closer to, I think he's closer to plus 185 than he is plus 300.
Okay, all I'm gonna say is, you think the sports books are going to catch up that quickly to where he is? I mean, how many goals does
I
he
think
have?
they already
here?
have.
This is the last thing. He was plus like 360 the other day. I'm almost positive.
Again, who are they playing?
Okay, I bet. All right, closer to 300. So you're saying he's going to be 230 or better towards you?
I think 240 is the midpoint, but yeah.
Yeah, 240.
Like that feels.
Honestly, yeah, I think he's 250 makes sense. Honestly, yeah, that's actually not.
All right, whatever.
I'm saying 300. Yeah, whatever. Let's get out of here. I got to go to hockey myself.
Absolute lunacy to talk about that. But anyway, yeah, that'll do it for this slate. 10 games. Be sure you're in the Discord for updates, news, injuries, lineup changes, whatever. We tend to cover it. And make sure you're following DJ on Twitter at DJ_Mitchell because _Mitchell 94 because he is often retweeting those lines that we then discuss. Similarly, I am at Fake Moods. You can catch anything I post, be it newsletters or random thoughts or the podcast links or videos. Speaking of videos, the last thing I have to plug is that DJ is live. Well, we'll be going live on Tuesday night, streaming some Zamboni drafts. So do be sure to check those out.
Yes, on OnlyFans.
Exactly. Yeah, link is in the description for his YouTube. Anyway, that'll do it for us. DJ, any thoughts or any final thoughts before we go?
No, just Zamboni draft season is upon us. That's all.
Awesome. All right, so that'll do it. Thank you all for listening. From Doug, from DJ, from myself. Have a good slate, everybody, and we will see you.